It's Boz time, everybody. Last time I was in the middle of a poem. Again, it's either a poem or a letter. I feel the soft infection flush in my cheek and wander in my veins. Teach me the Gretchen arts of soft persuasion. Sure, this is love, which heretofore I conceived the dream of idle maids and wanton poets. Though no comets or prodigies foretold the ruin of Greece, signs which heaven must by another miracle enable us to understand, yet might it be shown by tokens no less certain, by the vices which always bring it on. This last passage is worked up in the tragedy itself as follows. Leonidas, that power that kindly spreads the clouds a signal of impending showers, to warn the wandering linnet to the shade, beheld without concern expiring Greece, and not one prodigy foretold our fate. Demetrius, 1,000 horrid prodigies foretold it, a feeble government eluded laws of facetious populace, luxurious nobles, and all the maladies of sinking states. When public villainy, too strong for justice, shows his bold front, the harbinger of ruin, can brave Leonidas call the airy wonders, which cheats interpret and which fools regard? When some neglected fabric nods beneath the weight of years, and totters to the tempest, must heaven dispatch the messengers of light, or wake the dead to warn us of its fall? That part wasn't so bad. It's the first thing I liked by him. Shit. Alright. Oh, we're not done yet. Muhammad to Irene. I have tried thee, and joy to find that thou deserves to be loved by Mahomet, with a mind great as his own. Sure, thou art of an era of nature, and an exception to the rest of thy sex, and art immortal, for sentiments like thine were never to sink into nothing. I thought all the thoughts of the fair had been to select the graces of the day, dispose the colors of the flaunting, flowing robe, tune the voice and roll the eye, place the gem, choose the dress, and add new roses to the falling cheek, but sparkling. Thus in the tragedy, illustrious maid, new wonders fix me thine, thy soul completes the triumphs of thy face. Thy thought forgive, my fair, the noblest aim, the strongest effort of a female soul, was but to choose the grace of the day, to tune the tongue, to teach the eyes to roll, dispose the colors of the flowing robe, and add new roses to the faded cheek. Alright, so it seems like we got like a draft, and then what was going to be in the play that I don't think he ever finished. I shall select one other passage on account of the doctrine which it illustrates. Irene observes that the Supreme Being will accept of virtue, whatever outward circumstances it may be accompanied with. It may be delighted with varieties of worship, but is answered that variety cannot affect that being who, infinitely happy as his own perfections, wants no external gratifications, nor can an infinite truth be delighted with falsehood, that though he may guide or pity those he leaves in darkness, he abandons those who shut their eyes against the beams of day. And now for something completely different. Johnson's residences at Lichfield, on his return to it at this time, was only for 3 months, and as he had as yet seen but a small part of the wonders of the metropolis, he had little to tell his townsmen. He related to me the following minute anecdote of this period. Maybe I should have like a Johnson voice, I don't know. In the last age, when my mother lived in London... No, I'm not going to do that. There were 2 sets of people, those who gave the wall and those who took it, the peaceable and the quarrelsome. When I returned to Lichfield after having been in London, my mother asked me whether I was one of those who gave the wall or those who took it. Now it is fixed that every man keeps to the right, or, if one is taking the wall, another yields it, and it is never a dispute. Journal of the Tour of the Hebrides, 3rd edition, page 232, September 20th, 1773. He now removed to London with Mrs. Johnson, but her daughter, who had lived with him at Idle, was left with her relations in the country. That's the person he first went to woo, and then he married her mom. Kind of funny. His lodgings were for some time in Woodstock Street, near Hanover Square, and afterwards in Castle Street, near Cavendish Square. As there is something pleasingly interesting to many in tracing so great a man through all his different habitations, I shall, before this work is concluded, which won't be for a while, present my readers with an exact list of his lodgings and houses. In order of time which, in placid condescension to my respectful curiosity, he one evening dictated to me, but without specifying how long he lived at each. In the progress of his life, I shall have occasion to mention some of them as connected with particular incidents or with the writing of particular parts of his works. To some, this minute attention may appear trifling, but when we consider the punctilious exactness with which the different houses in which Milton resided have been traced by the writers of his life, a similar enthusiasm may be pardoned in the biographer of Johnson. His tragedy being by this time, as he thought, completely finished and fit for the stage, he was very desirous that it should be brought forward. Mr. Peter Garrick told me that Johnson and he went together to the Fountain Tavern and read it over, and that he afterwards solicited Mr. Fleetwood, the patentee of Drury Lane Theatre, to have it acted at his house. But Mr. Fleetwood would not accept it, probably because it was not patronized by some man of high rank. And it was not acted till 1749, when his friend David Garrick was manager of that theatre. The Gentleman's Magazine, begat and carried on by Mr. Edward Cave, under the name of Sylvanus Urban, had attracted the notice and esteem of Johnson in an eminent degree before he came to London as an adventurer in literature. He told me that when he first saw St. John's Gate, the place where that deservedly popular miscellany was originally printed, he beheld it with reverence. I suppose, indeed, that every young author has had the same kind of feeling for the magazine of periodical publication which has first entertained him, and in which he has first had an opportunity to see himself in print, without the risk of exposing his name. I myself recollect such impressions from the Scots Magazine, which was begun at Edinburgh in the year 1739, and had been ever conducted with judgment, accuracy, and propriety. I yet cannot help thinking of it with an affectionate regard, like I do with Cracked Magazine. Johnson had dignified the Gentleman's Magazine by the importance with which he invested the life of Cave, but he has given it with still greater luster by the various admirable essays which he wrote for it. Though Johnson was often solicited by his friends to make a complete list of his writings, and talked of doing it, I believe with a serious intention that they should all be collected on his own account, he put it off from year to year, and at last died without having done it perfectly. I have one of his own handwriting, which contains a certain number. I indeed doubt if he could have remembered every one of them, as they were so numerous, so various, and scattered in such a multiplicity of unconnected publications. Nay, several of them published under the names of other persons, to whom he liberally contributed from the abundance of his mind. We must therefore be content to discover them, partly from occasional information given by him to his friends, and partly from internal evidence. While in the course of my narrative I enumerate his writings, I shall take care that the reader shall not be left to waver in doubt between certainty and conjecture with regard to their authenticity, and for that purpose shall mark with an asterisk those which he acknowledged to his friends, and with a dagger those which are ascertained to be his by internal evidence. When any other piece I will ascribe to him, I shall give my reasons. Anyway, his first performance in the Gentleman's Magazine, which for many years was his principal resource for employment and support, was a copy of Latin verses. In March 1738, addressed to the editor in so happy a style of compliment that Cave must have been destitute both of taste and sensibility had he not felt himself highly gratified. Ad urbanum. Or is it urbane? Ad urbanum. Urbane, nullus fes laborius. Urbane. Oh boy. Okay, so I'm going to read a lot of bad Latin, and then don't worry, there's going to be a translation at the end. But just for fun, shits and giggles, I'm going to read it in Pig Latin, basically. Urbane, nullus fes laborius. Urbane, nullus victe calamitas. Q fronte subsertum in iridata perpetua virit et veribit. Quid molliatur gens imitatium, quid et minitur solicitus parum, vacari solus purge musis, huxta animo studici felix. Yeah. Lingue procassus plumia spicula, fiden superboy. It looks like Superboy. Superbo, frange silencio, victris per abtantes cantervas, sudulitas, animosa tendit. Intende nervos fortis, inabius, resurus olim nispus amuli, intende jam nervoso, habibus, participe operae camenis. Non ulla musis paginia gratior, quam qua severis ludicera jungere novate fintagmanci nugis utubilus recreare mentem. Texente nymphis certa laocride rose ruborum sic viola adjuvet immersia sic iris regulgit atheris varieta fusus. Translation of the ode by an unknown correspondent appeared in the magazine for the month of May following. I'll translate that for you. Hail, Urban, indefatigable man, unwearied yet by all thy useful toil, whom numerous slanders assault in vain, whom no base calumny can put to forth. Calumny? Yeah. But still the laurel of thy learned brow flourishes fair and shall for ever grow. What mean the servile imitating crew, with their vain blustering and their empty noise, ne'er seek, but still thy noble ends pursue, unconquered by the rabble's venal voice, still to the muse thy studious mind apply, happy and tender, in temper as in industry. I'm not done. The senseless sneerings of an haughty tongue, unworthy thy attention to engage, unheeded pass, and though they mean thee wrong, by manly silence disappoint their rage. Assiduous diligence confounds its foes, resistless though malicious crowds oppose. Exert thy powers, nor slacken in thy course. Thy spotless fame shall quash all false reports. Exert thy powers, nor fear a rival's force, but thou shalt smile at all his vain efforts. Thy labors shall be crowned with large success. The muse thy magazine shall bless. Oh, I see, it's about the magazine. Now, why is this way... I guess I'm reading this long. I don't know. This is longer than the Latin version. I'm not done. No page more grateful to the harmonious nine than that wherein thy labors we survey, where solemn themes in fuller splendor shine, delightful mixture blended with the gay, wherein improving various joys we find, a welcome respite to the wearied mind. Thus, when the nymphs in some fair verdant mead of various flowers of beauteous wreath compose, the lovely violet's azure painted head adds luster to the crimson blushing rose. Thus splendid Iris, with her varied dye, shines in the ether and adorns the sky. Britain. Wow. All right. I'm trying to figure out why. Is that not the translation? It looks like it's probably this translation. Well, I guess Latin's a more brevy language than English. Anyway, did you like that? Well, too bad. Because Cave did not. It appears that he was now enlisted by Mr. Cave. Oh, he was. Okay, he did like it. Okay, really kissed his ass there with that. Appears that he was now enlisted by Mr. Cave as a regular coadjutor in his magazine, by which he probably obtained a tolerable livelihood. At what time, or by what means, he had acquired a competent knowledge both of French and Italian, I do not know. But he was so well skilled in them as to be sufficiently qualified for a translator. That part of his labor, which consisted in emendation and improvement of the production of other contributors, like that employed in leveling ground, can be perceived only by those who had an opportunity of comparing the original with the altered copy. What we certainly know to have been done by him at this way was that debates in both House and Parliament, under the names of the Senate of Lilliput, sometimes with feigned denominations of the several speakers, sometimes with denominations formed of the letters of their real names, in the manner of what is called an anagram, so that they might easily be deciphered. Parliament they then kept the press in a kind of mysterious awe, which made it necessary to have recourse to such devices. In our time it has acquired an unrestrained freedom, so that the people in all parts of the kingdom have a fair, open, and exact report of the actual proceedings of their representatives and legislators, which in our Constitution is highly to be valued, though unquestionably there has of late been too much reason to complain of the populace with which obscure scribblers have presumed to treat men of the most respectable character and situation. The important article of the Gentleman's Magazine was, for several years, executed by Mr. William Guthrie, or Guthrie, maybe related to Arlo, a man who deserves to be respectably recorded in the literary annals of this country. He was descended of an ancient family in Scotland, but having a small patrimony, and being an inherit of the unfortunate House of Stuart, he could not accept of any office in the state. He therefore came to London and employed his talents and learning as an author by profession. His writings in his Tory criticism and politics had considerable merit. How much poetry he wrote I know not, but he informed me that he was the author of the beautiful little piece, The Eagle and Robin Redbreast, in the collection of poems entitled The Union, though it is there said to be written by Archibald Scott before the year 1600. It is by Allan Ramsay. Anyway, he was the first English historian who had recourse to that authentic source of information, the parliamentary journals. And such was the power of his political pen that, at an early period, government thought it worth their while to keep it quiet by a pension, which he enjoyed till his death. Johnson esteemed him enough to wish that his life should be written. The debates in Parliament, which were brought home and digested by Guthrie, whose memory, though surpassed by others who have since followed him in that same department, was yet very quick and tenacious, were sent by Cave to Johnson for his revision, and after some time, when Guthrie had attained to greater variety of employment, and the speeches were more and more enriched by the accession of Johnson's genius, it was resolved that he should do the whole himself, from the scanty notes furnished by persons employed to attend both Houses of Parliament. Sometimes, however, as he himself told me, He had nothing more communicated to him than the names of the several speakers and the part which they had taken in the debate. Okay, that's enough for now. Oof. Well, he certainly gets around, doesn't he? Till next time, bye from Boswell.